What's dangerous is when the universe pick you and you put on the magic glasses. There's rules that go with them. You can never take them off. You never see things as they're supposed to be. You see things as they are. You can never force nobody else to wear them.
I think while I lie awake and contemplate tonight are wearing me out. Well, maybe tomorrow the world will wake and get it right, but I have my doubts, yeah. Design machines of war that scream through the sky. 'Cause I for one, I'd like to go to bed free at night under these stars and stripes. And I have my doubts that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts, and I have my doubts that we'll make it back out. Yes, I have my doubts, but they'll wind you up and pull the cord until you're spun right out. And I don't understand. Roll the dice and raise the price to feed the machine's mouth. Call it the progress of man. And I have my doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubt. And I have my doubt that we'll make it back out. So I'll drink my stuff and raise some hell and shoot my guns to the end of my time. You can have the booze and go to hell and take the guns, but I know they won't be mine. We're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts, and I have my doubts that we'll make it back up. Yes, I have my doubts. So we're all messed up and out of touch. Let's text someone who's in the other room. So don't wonder why we don't say hi or know anyone. I might as well move to the moon. So maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope that I'm wrong. So maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope that I'm wrong. The things I think while I lie awake and contemplate at night are wearing me out.
Good evening. Hope everyone is doing well. I didn't even know really what to title of the show, there's not there was a fair amount of headlines, but it's kind of a meh day for the most part. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's quite a bit of stuff as far as, Ukraine tried attacking Moscow with drones, so that's something that actually, pardon me, right after I went off air last night was when RT had broke that news. I mean, just moments after I went off air. And so I put the headline out right away last night. Figured I would cover it tonight. So, and of course, as usual, I would expect that the skies over Ukraine are going to light up. Because that's pretty much the way it happens every single time. So, have no idea what Putin's going to go after. Probably, I would say, he's probably going to hit the ports a little more, and yikes. The reason I sat there and I try to think of what in the hell can be going through the minds of the Ukrainian leadership. Because it's just insane to me. And the West feeding them with weapons and money, it's just going to lead to nothing but bloodshed. That's all. I mean, you're sending all those people into a meat grinder. It's just, I don't get it. Anyway, I've only got 5 tabs open. 3 of those 5 are pretty much to do with the Russia-Ukraine conflict. However, it looks like there could be something else starting up. Something certainly to keep an eye on. We touched on it yesterday. There's more news involving all of it today. So, let's see. Sorry, I had a message in our little Highland group. Alright, let me get switched over. Don't have really a whole lot to talk about. Did a little flying today. I'm trying to figure out the autopilot on that Comanche. I finally think I figured it out. Due to watching the videos on how to use the damn thing. It's different. It's not the normal autopilot. So definitely takes getting used to. But I think I got it squared away. Okay, so this is the headline that came out last night. right as I closed down the show, right after I closed down the show. Moscow comes under attempted drone attack. Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin has said there was no major damage following an attempted Ukrainian drone strike at around 4 a.m. on Monday morning. The unmanned vehicles crashed into the non-residential buildings after the military brought them down using electronic defense systems. The Russian Defense Ministry said in a brief statement that it had prevented an attempt by the Kiev regime to carry out a terrorist attack using 2 unmanned aerial vehicles on Monday morning. Several drone fragments were found on Komsomolsky Prospect in the center of Moscow, not far from the Defense Ministry's main headquarters, a source in the emergency services told TASS news agency. The Department of Transportation said that traffic in the area was partially restricted, advising residents to plan detour routes. While the drone itself hit a non-residential building, several windows in residential buildings in the area were reportedly blown out by the blast wave. There were no reports of casualties or injuries, though emergency services were at the scene with video showing multiple police cars and ambulances. Second drone apparently hit a high-rise building in southern Moscow, which hosts the office of French home improvement chain Leroy Merlin. The Department of Transport confirmed partial road closures and traffic reroutes in the area. Ukraine has recently attempted to strike targets in Moscow region and the capital itself. Earlier this month, 4 incoming UAVs were shot down by air defenses over Novaya Moskva to the southwest of the center, while another crashed after being disabled by electronic warfare. Last month, the Russian Defense Ministry stated that Kiev had launched an attack on Moscow involving 8 drones, which were either shot down by air defenses or suppressed by electronic warfare. The raid damaged several residential buildings but did not cause any serious injuries. So, all right on, Leo. Let's see. Coffee. Yum yum. I had to slow down. Like yesterday, I had almost all my coffee drank before the show was even started. And so I had a backup glass of tea at the ready. And I don't have a backup glass of tea at the ready. I don't think I need that today. But I had to slow down because it was like, I start coffee about 6:30 my time. And so I normally kind of nurse my first cup. And then I normally get my second cup right before the show. So yesterday I wolfed down the first cup, wolfed down most of the second cup, and I'm like, damn. So today I wolfed down the first cup, and I really slowed myself down. So I pretty well started the show with a full cup. But that's important because I cannot run out of coffee because, well, I just run on caffeine and nicotine. If you take those two things away from me, I will not live. Just saying. This crickety old bastard a break real quick. Russia reveals rapid growth in military production. The Russian military-industrial complex could use over 16,000 more specialized workers, but has nonetheless managed to ramp up production of certain weapons, Trade and Industry Minister Denis Manturov announced on Monday. Since the beginning of this year, for many types of weapons and special equipment, much more has already been produced than for the whole of last year, Manturov told a conference in Nizhny Novgorod. I know I'm saying these wrong. Speaking about weapons, we are now reaching a level at which deliveries in just 1 month exceed the total order of last year, he added. All defense enterprises are operating at unprecedented levels, Manturov claimed. The expanded capabilities have resulted in a labor shortage, however. In total, taking into account the deployed capacities, we need more than 16,000 specialists only for organizations that ensure the supply of most popular types of weapons and special equipment, ranging from line workers to technical specialists and engineers. Manturov, who is also a deputy prime minister explained while asking the heads of Russian regions to address the personnel shortage. We need an integrated approach here, he said, urging the governors to involve employment services and human resource specialists, as well as to offer incentives to university graduates to work in the defense industry. In the Volga Federal District alone, 106 enterprises are receiving subsidies to expand and accelerate production of weapons, equipment, and ammunition, Mantroff noted. While a dozen more contracts are in the works. Hang on. Russian military-industrial complex has scaled up its activities to support the military operation in Ukraine. The U.S. and its allies have sent over $100 billion worth of weapons, equipment, and ammunition to Kiev, while insisting they are not a party to the conflict. The West has also sought to increase military production, with little success so far. Nizhny Novgorod, known as Gorky during the Soviet Union era, sits on the Volga River about halfway between Moscow and Kazan, one of the major industrial enterprises in the 1.2 million community is NMSZ, a subsidiary of Almaz-Antey that manufactures tube artillery and ammunition. So, hang on. Okay. My phone was like filled with notifications, sorry. Oh. And let's see. Had another headline pop up, and we'll certainly cover that after this one. Poland to form new Poland to form new military unit amid tensions with Russia and Belarus. This is something to keep a very, very close eye on. And then another headline just came out that is along the same lines. So we'll start with this. A new sapper battalion is to be formed in northeastern Poland by the end of the year, Defense Minister Mariusz Blaszczak, I have no idea, said on Sunday. The unit, which will be created from scratch, is expected to beef up Polish defenses in the so-called Suwalki Gap, a region separating Russia's exclave of Kaliningrad from Belarus. We care about the security of the eastern flank. A sapper battalion will soon be created in Augustow, Blaszczak said in a Twitter post referring to the northeastern Polish city located in the Suwalki Gap, which borders Lithuania. The unit will be just one of many that Warsaw seeks to create in the near future, the minister said in a post that featured a map of eastern Poland, with some 24 locations already hosting or expected to host the new military units. We know very well that Polish soldiers are the best guarantee of our homeland security, he added. The formation of the battalion is part of a Polish government program adopted in 2022 to strengthen the armed forces, local media reported. The plan involves creating new units and modernizing existing ones between 2023 and 2025. Northeastern Poland also hosts American, British, Romanian, and Croatian soldiers training side by side with Polish forces, Blazak told journalists on Sunday, calling the area a place important from the strategic point of view and key to the security of both Poland and NATO as a whole. He also called on locals to join the ranks of the yet-to-be-formed unit. Last week, the minister said the Warsaw expects provocations from Russia as he announced the redeployment of some units from the western Poland to the east. He specifically mentioned several thousands of Wagner fighters who had moved to Belarus as a threat. The Wagner group arrived at Belarus as part of a deal with Kremlin mediated by Minsk that ended in a mutiny staged by the company's founder, Evgeny Prigozhin. The Wagner troops were given the option of either returning to civilian life, signing contracts with the Russian Defense Ministry, or relocating to Belarus, which had agreed to host them. Again, I think this is going to be used as like a hands-off excuse for Putin. Because that's what we did in the Middle East. That's what we did with Al-Qaeda. That's what we did with ISIS, the Taliban. I mean, I couldn't tell you the amount of times that I saw reported about an airdrop of supplies. That it was just amazing how many times, how often it fell into enemy hands. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, let me pull this one over. Sorry, I was kind of looking at this one. Let me close that other one. Oh, man. I'm just sitting here thinking. This is, like I said, it's the perfect front for Putin. You know, I didn't do it. They're not, we're not supporting them. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. If this happens, one thing you have to understand, if this happens, this kind of takes it out of anybody's hands at that point. Meaning, when I say if this happens, I'm talking about Poland being invaded by Belarus. I think there's a fairly good chance of it happening. And again, Putin can use the excuse of, I'm not in control of them. We'll see. We'll see. And then, I mean, because that kind of puts NATO in a spot. Because if NATO's not in control of the new Wagner group, if you will, then how could NATO attack Russia for what the new Wagner did? So we'll see. I kind of have a feeling this could get really interesting here. Washington will defend Poland in case of an attack from abroad, State Department spokesman Matthew Miller told reporters on Monday, commenting on rumors that fighters from the private military company Wagner, currently stationed in Belarus, wanted to go on tour in the neighboring state. During the daily press briefing, Miller was asked about the statements by Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, who claimed that Wagner members were eager to settle scores with those who provided Ukraine with weapons and suggested that they could go on a tour to Warsaw. I don't know how much you should read into that, Miller said. I would just reiterate that our alliance with Poland is strong. Poland is a NATO member, of course, and we will defend, if necessary, every inch of NATO territory. Several thousand Wagner fighters have relocated to Belarus over the past month after their failed mutiny in Russia, which ended with Lukashenko's mediation. The Belarusian leader, who visited Moscow over the weekend, told President Vladimir Putin he was concerned by their apparent desire to cross into Poland. Lukashenko specifically mentioned Rzeszów, a hub for NATO efforts to supply Ukraine with weapons, ammunition, equipment, and repairs. Putin said last week that any attack on Belarus from Poland would be treated as an attack on Russia itself. Moscow and Minsk have a defense pact, and Russian troops are stationed in Belarus. Russia also deployed nuclear warheads to Belarus last month, citing ongoing tensions with NATO over Ukraine. Russian president suggested that Warsaw was drawing up a coalition with Lithuania to seize parts of western Ukraine under the guise of peacekeeping, and that some in Kiev might collaborate with this project. Polish officials have denied any plans to occupy Ukrainian territory. A swath of territory currently belonging to Ukraine, Belarus, and Lithuania was held by Poland between 1919 and 1939. These eastern borderlands were ceded to the USSR at the end of the Second World War in exchange for Eastern Prussia, Pomerania, and Silesia. I'm not sure I've ever heard of that one, from which the local Germans were deported. Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki bristled at Putin's description of Poland's current western border as a gift from Stalin. He denounced the late Soviet leader as a war criminal and vowed to summon the Russian ambassador in protest. Warsaw beefed up its military presence along the border with Belarus in early July, citing the threat from Wagner. On Monday, Defense Minister Mariusz Blazi, I have no idea how to say that, announced the creation of a new unit to be stationed near the border with Lithuania in the so-called Suwalki Gap, which separates Belarus from the Russia-Baltic Sea exclave of Kaliningrad. So, ow. Coffee. Oh, man. Israel passes controversial judicial reform. Now, I'm not certain, but it almost seems like this was just kind of snuck in and kind of just boom, and wasn't supposed to really get a lot of attention, because there is a bunch of hell about to be raised over this once before, and they stopped short of doing it as a result. Now, like I say, it almost seems kind of like just out of the blue that, oh, here it is, boom, and it's law. It's probably going to get a little crazy in Israel because the people, if I recall, I think there were some types of unions, I think it was. There were some very big groups, and I can't remember. There was one that was surprising, and I want to say that it was somehow affiliated with military. And even they were some of the people that were, I don't remember what the term was, but standing in protest, however that was. Crazy. Israel's parliament passed the first part of a divisive judicial reform package that restricts the power of the country's Supreme Court on Monday. The approval comes despite months of intense mass protest in the country and international condemnation from Israel's so-called partners. The Knesset approved the measure, which limits the Supreme Court's oversight of the government actions and curtails its ability to veto decisions and appointments on the basis of reasonability with a unanimous vote. All 64 members of the governing coalition were in favor, while the rest abstained in protest after the two sides failed to reach a compromise. Benjamin Netanyahu's proposed judicial reforms have been hotly debated since the longest-serving prime minister in Israeli history returned to power in December at the helm of the most right-wing government ever to lead the country. While he claimed the moves were necessary to restore the balance between the branches of government, critics have argued that it effectively neuters the Supreme Court and with it the notion of democratic Israel. Opposition leader Yair Lapid lamented the results of Monday's vote, telling reporters it's impossible to reach any understanding that will preserve Israeli democracy with this government. They want to dismantle the state. Outside the Parliament building, protesters staged sit-ins, chained themselves to the gates, and attempted to block roads, hoping to prevent lawmakers from being physically present to vote. Police reportedly used water cannons to disperse the crowd several times. Israel's main workers' union, the Histadrut, is said to be considering a strike, while thousands of reservists with the Israeli Defense Forces warned in the weeks leading up to the vote that they would not report to duty if the reform passed. The administration of U.S. President Joe Biden issued a rare public critique of its Middle Eastern ally on Sunday, urging the Israeli government to work toward a compromise rather than rushing the divisive legislation. I have a feeling, like I say, there's going to be plenty of protest over this. Lord knows what it's going to lead to. I mean, there were some people that were very, very hot about this, and rightfully so. Okay, this would be the same as if saying that Biden put in like an executive order, right? Like Biden put in an executive order to be able to override the Supreme Court. That would essentially be the same thing as what's happening here in Israel. So, the people have a right to be upset over this. Because now the government, is saying, oh, no matter what, if we deem it so, it's so, regardless. That's not a good place to be. The little Kim is spouting off again. Let's see. North Korea fires 2 missiles, says Seoul. Democratic People's Republic of Korea launched 2 ballistic missiles from the vicinity of Pyongyang into the Sea of Japan on Monday evening, according to the South Korean military and Japanese Coast Guard. The consecutive launches happened between 11:55 and midnight local time, the Joint Chiefs of Staff in Seoul said in a statement. What appeared to be short-range ballistic missiles flew for about 400 kilometers or 248 miles before splashing down into the sea. The South Korean military condemned the launches as a grave provocation threatening regional peace and stability and said it would work with the U.S. to better monitor North Korean military activities, according to AP. Several hours before the missile test, a nuclear-powered U.S. submarine docked at South Korea's Jeju Island. Unlike the USS Kentucky, the ballistic missile submarine which arrived in the port of Busan last week, the USS Annapolis is armed with conventional weapons. Pyongyang reacted to the arrival of the U.S. submarine by test-firing ballistic and cruise missiles. On Thursday, the state news agency KCNA shared a government statement threatening a nuclear response if the U.S. deployed aircraft carriers, bombers, and missile submarines in the south. Last week, a U.S. soldier stationed in South Korea crossed the armistice line into the DPRK. Washington has reached out to Pyongyang via the United Nations Command, established in 1950 and continuing to operate to the present day. The increase in tensions comes ahead of the anniversary of the truce that froze the Korean War on July 27, 1953. The conflict between the North and the South quickly drew in the U.S. and China, but neither side could prevail. After the bloody battles of 1951, the Korean peninsula was eventually partitioned along the armistice line, pending a final peace treaty that was never signed. South Korea plans solemn ceremonies honoring the dead on Thursday with the participation of U.S. and other foreign veterans of the conflict. North Korea, meanwhile, plans to celebrate victory in what it calls the Great Fatherland Liberation War, with a high-ranking Chinese delegation in attendance. So, insanity. And that's the only headlines that I had brought up to even talk about. It just, there's really not a whole lot today, and I can't say that it's not important news, because, yeah, some of it's clearly important news, but for the most part, meh. I mean, it's just a Mad News Day. What can I say? But hey, that allowed for me the time to learn how to properly operate the autopilot on the Comanche. Because that's important. No, I just like try to use it the way you do any other autopilot, and it won't work right for you. Sometimes reading the manual is necessary. Anyway, run through the headlines and get the heck out of here. Make for an easy, quick night. Dutch families face higher energy bills, says data. German firms in no rush to leave Russia, says envoy. Ammo depot in Crimea targeted by Ukrainian drones. Western bureaucracy affected Kiev's counteroffensive, says UK expert. Mega-rich ex-Ukrainian conscription boss arrested. Russia and Africa trade has major potential, says Putin. Merkel's party opens doors cooperating with Germany's far right. Traces of explosives found on foreign ship en route to Russia, says FSB. Let's see. Ukrainian drone attack on Moscow is international terrorism, says Foreign Ministry. Richard Nixon predicted Ukraine conflict in 1994, says Wall Street Journal. Russia does not target civilian buildings, says Kremlin. China lashes out at U.S. ally over chip curves. Ex-Russian president suggests surprise response to Ukrainian drone. Goldman Sachs predicts all-time high oil demand. Let's see. Russia makes digital ruble official. So they're moving closer to the digital, I guess, ruble. I'm going to be very unsurprised if, all the different countries just have their own little digital currency that they just slip into. I'm telling you, they're deceived. I really think that a lot of these countries are working together to do this, including China. I think the U.S. is lock, stock, and barrel working with China. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. If they're not, then why the hell are they implementing all their shit? An ex-Russian president suggests surprise response to Ukrainian drone attacks. Goldman Sachs predicts an all-time high oil demand. Of course, they're going to make sure that the output stays down. Russia makes digital... Oh, wait, I've read these apparently. Beijing says it will take all necessary measures against U.S. spies. UN body chief deplores killing of Russian journalist. Quran burnt outside Iraqi embassy in Denmark. Greta Thunberg fined over climate protest. Chinese money pivoting away from the West, says Wall Street Journal. Norwegian MP resigns after shoplifting scandal. OpenAI founder to pay people crypto for being human. Okay, sign me up. UN comments on detained U.S. soldier in North Korea. Putin signs law banning gender change in Russia. Russia reveals rapid growth in military production. Oh, I did cover that one. Hungary may leave the EU, says former banking chief. TikTok adds text posts. Woohoo. Covered that. Poland to form new military... Oh, actually, I covered that one too. A man found dead near Obama home. I didn't do it, yo. Maybe Obama did. Maybe it was Michelle. We don't know. DeSantis Guantanamo documentary pulled over fear of retaliation, says the media. Yeah, I mean, you might wind up like the dude near the Obama home. Obama cited. Kiev's defense chief, it was the chef. It was the chef with Michelle's sex toys. Kiev's defense chief explains counteroffensive failures. You know what? That's all they would have to do to beat Russia. All they'd have to do to beat Russia, just put the Clintons on them, right? That's it. Russian military body count overnight would be in the hundreds of thousands. They would all be suspicious suicides. Where was Hillary at? I don't know where Hillary was. Oh, man. Covered that one too. Kiev's, that's it. That's like everything. That's all the news wrapped up with a pretty little damn bow on it. I guess. You can choose your own color of your own bow. It's all an imaginary bow anyway. Man. This is a messed up world to live in. You know that? I just wished people had the ability to tell the truth and be self-accountable. That, if I could have a wish come true, that's what it would be. It wouldn't be for millions of dollars. It wouldn't be for anything like that. It would be for an honest society. Because, man, does this society suck. It truly does. I mean, nobody is accountable. It's crazy. You look at the political parties, nobody holds anybody accountable. Nobody holds themselves accountable. In people's personal individual lives, people don't hold each other or hold themselves accountable. It just, when somebody wants to live an honest life, it makes it a pain in the ass. It really, truly does. Because somebody who wants to live an honest life doesn't want to play 9,000 frickin' games. They typically want a simple, calm, quiet life. Not a lot of people are looking for that these days, I don't think. Too many people get excited by the drama. Doesn't make any sense to me. But that would be one of the biggest reasons why I quit watching TV so many damn years ago. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get to bed. I, God willing, will talk to all you cats tomorrow. I appreciate you coming tonight. Hope to see you tomorrow night. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.